Okay, I think we're going again here. Let's take a look. All right, let's see if we can figure things out. If it works, it'll be a miracle out of Scripture. Let's look right there. Okay, here we go. All right, so next period. Well, no, it's still the same period, isn't it? You just got the Constitution. All right, so we got the Washington administration. I believe I'm going to do two together right here. I'm going Whiskey Rebellion and Farewell Address. Because these are the two things Washington himself kind of does. So you've got this tax on whiskey, the Western farmer. So it's the same old story. You've had this same story three times. You've had Bacon's Rebellion, Shays Rebellion, now the Whiskey Rebellion, where Western farmers are upset about something. Once again, it's taxes. This time's the tax on whiskey out there, and this time they're in Pennsylvania. So Washington takes 13,000 troops in there, showing that now the government's strong enough, where it wasn't strong enough when you had Shays Rebellion. All right. The farewell address he's doing at the end of his time in office, saying to be able to look out for political parties and permanent alliances. And so that's kind of his contribution. A lot of the stuff going on during this two-term presidency, and I'll go ahead and say, I think there's another reason why we put Lincoln just a little bit above Washington, is Lincoln's achievements are his achievements. He's doing this stuff, whereas Washington's got some big-time guys kind of helping him out here, in particular his cabinet. So Washington was unanimously chosen, really, really popular. Could we say that Washington's the greatest American and Lincoln's the greatest president? So in other words, if you add Washington's generalship to his presidency, it adds up to more than Lincoln's presidency, although neither one of them is quite as much as Lincoln's presidency. It's kind of interesting. All right, but back to what we got. Everybody voted for him. All right, he sets a lot of precedents. He said, so help me God, when we've taken the oath of office. He steps down after 2 terms, so that's the 2-term tradition. He appoints a cabinet. His cabinet guys didn't get along, so Knox was one of them, but the big two are going to be Hamilton and Jefferson. And it's over Hamilton's economic plan. So Hamilton thinks debt's a good thing. If you pay back the debt to the rich people, they're on your side. If you pay back your debt to other countries, that's going to get other countries to respect the word of the United States of America. All right. To pay back the debt, there's going to be a tariff. That's going to help industry, and it's a tax on imports, plus this whiskey tax. That's going to cause the Whiskey Rebellion. You put the tax money in the first bank of the U.S. That'll help the economy. But Jefferson says, not so fast, my friend. You can't do that. It ain't in the Constitution. So, and if it's not in the Constitution, you can't do it. That's called the theory of strict construction. And strict constructionists are very worried about, a big, strong government. Hamilton is a loose constructionist. He said if the Constitution doesn't say I can't do it, it must be okay. What else? The necessary and proper clause in the Constitution kind of stretches the power and says, well, if it's necessary, action's necessary and proper for carrying out the other powers, well, it's all right. All right, so these two guys have this power struggle. The Federalist Party is ends up being made up of the followers of Hamilton. Strong government, pro-business, New England-centered. The Democratic Republican or Republican Party is going to be made up of Jefferson's followers. Weak government, states' rights, common man, yeoman, farmer, agriculturally kind of southern and western centered. All right, so that's Washington. Washington stays neutral in the war between Britain and France. He says we're not big and bad a country enough to be fighting another war just yet. Let's have a baby boom. Let a generation be born. Adams keeps that going. Remember, he stays out of war with France over the XYZ affair, which was really kind of the original hostage crisis. And so, he wouldn't pay France a bribe to negotiate over, the original impressment, really. So that makes the French mad at Adams. And he gets mad at them, so he passes the Alien Sedition Act really against them and against Republicans. So the Alien Act says you got to live here 14 years to become a citizen. And he's worried about French people becoming citizens and voting again. So the Sedition Act says you can't hate on the president. It's taking away freedom of speech. All right, and it wasn't real popular law, so the result is, hey, he's a one-termer. Okay, so Jefferson gets elected on to period 4. Jefferson gets elected in 1800. It's called the Revolution of 1800, but we want to put that in quotes. Everybody thought it was going to be a big change because first peaceful transfer of power. You're going from find it. It's in here somewhere. All right. Hey, I was talking to my son there. I got a recording going. Look over there. Yeah, look for it. It's got to be here somewhere because I opened the door. So it's somewhere in this room. All right, but I got to keep this in. So like,
is it in your pockets?
Oh, I check my coat pockets. I just bet. No there. I don't know. All I know is boom. Here. Don't lose it. Okay. Back to 1800. So it turned out to not be a big change. All right. Because he ended up, this original strict constructionist ends up being a loose constructionist. Because he's making Louisiana Purchase, buying it from France. He's trying to get New Orleans, but Napoleon decides to cut his losses in the Western Hemisphere and sell all Louisiana. And Jefferson thinks it's unconstitutional, but he can help his buddy, the yeoman farmer. That's Y-O-E. I've got it misspelled there. No, I think I've got this. I wonder why. I think I've got it spelled right. I disagree with the spell check there. But this creates this valley of democracy, and there's not time to wait on a constitutional amendment. Napoleon might change his mind. So he does it even though he's got constitutional problems with it. He sends Lewis and Clark out there to explore it. Takes them about 3 years, 1804 to 1806. When they get back, they're like big rock star astronaut guys. All right, but it raises the question of slavery in the West, which is going to be answered by the Missouri Compromise, which takes place during the Monroe years. And look at there, I don't even have it. All right, so let's put Missouri Compromise. Okay. Let's see. So it raises that question of slavery in the West. The Missouri Compromise is going to solve that question. All right. So Jefferson's a two-termer, and he was a popular president. Things don't go as well the second term. You got the build-up to the War of 1812. You got that impressment going. And remember, he does the Embargo Act, which just messes up our economy. So along comes next. Democratic Republican, Madison, and so he ends up fighting the war over the impressment, also giving guns, the British giving guns to natives. Those are the two causes. Washington, D.C. gets burned. The fighting in the war doesn't go very well for us. William Henry Harrison has some success against natives. Remember the Battle of Tippecanoe is going to get that, nickname out of that. But things are not going very well. Washington, D.C. gets burned when a lot of British troops get sent over. And they're trying to take Baltimore, the Battle of Fort McHenry, and Francis Scott Key writes the Star-Spangled Banner about seeing that take place. All right, Battle of New Orleans took place after the Treaty of Ghent ended the war. Let me see. Jackson's the hero of it. It's a big whooping of the British. The war is over, but he hadn't heard. And so, he's going to use his war hero status to get elected president of the United States. All right, the Treaty of Ghent ends the war in a tie. However, we're feeling good during the Monroe years about this tie. Why? Well, it's the air of good feelings. Number one, we stood up to the big bad British and didn't lose. Number two, you got a good economy going. Number three, you only got one political party, so you're not fussing with each other. All right. What else are we going to? So those are the three reasons for the air of good feelings. The American system is going to help this economy. Henry Clay, he of the many compromises. He wants to make us economically independent. So you got a tariff to help American industry. The transportation improvements. So you really got that market revolution there that, we wrote about. But I didn't do a very good job of putting on the review sheet. You got the industry in the Northeast, the Lowell system, the Irish and the Germans coming over and fighting. You got all the inventors, the cotton gin and the reaper and the telegraph. And you got the transportation improvements, the Erie Canal and the railroad and the National Road and the steamboat. So all that's kind of going on during this period of time on into the age of Jackson. All right, the Monroe Doctrine, Latin American countries getting their independence. And Monroe doesn't want European countries coming over and trying to get more colonies. Okay, so here comes Jackson. All right, so he's your common man guy. He's the warrior hero. He gets the most votes in 1824, but he doesn't get elected because there's 4 guys running. Nobody gets a majority, goes to the House. In the House of Representatives, Crawford can't be president, so it comes down to Jackson and Adams. Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, makes this deal, we think, with John Quincy Adams, where Adams gets the support of the House, becomes president. Adams then turns around and makes Clay the Secretary of State, which at the time was a stepping stone to the presidency. All right. Let's see. Jackson's the champion of the common man. He's the first Democrat. Everything he's doing for the common man. The Trail of Tears is for those farmers so they can get land here in Georgia. Plus, there's the gold rush here. You got 2 court cases. So the Cherokee, the 5 civilized tribes, Cherokee, Creek, Choctaw, Seminole. The Indian Removal Act 1830 says they got to go. The first court case, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, they can't sue according to Marshall, so they try again, and they get this missionary, Wooster, to sue on their behalf, and the Supreme Court says they ain't got to go, but Jackson made them go anyway. John Marshall's made his decision, let him enforce it. So they got to go to Oklahoma. A lot of people die on the way. The very young, the very old. Nullification crisis about the tariff of abominations. The South doesn't like tariff. It helps industry. Doesn't do anything for the South except raise their prices. South Carolina says they're going to nullify it. They're led by former Vice President John C. Calhoun. Jackson threatens to send troops down and hang his former vice president. And the crisis ends with Henry Clay saving the day with a compromise tariff, the compromise of 1833, I believe is the year. All right, the bank wars. This bank, Clay's second bank of the U.S., Jefferson sees it as a tool of the rich and the powerful and the privileged, anti-common man kind of practices. And so he vetoes it when Clay tries to recharter it, pulls the funds out, starts putting them in the pet banks. The pet banks make unwise loans to land speculators who can't pay them back. The banks go under, people lose their life savings. You got the Panic of 1837, which President Martin Van Buren pays the price for. Panic doesn't kick in until after after Jackson steps down. All right, the Whig Party was the Jackson-Hayden Party. You know, they tended to be kind of like Federalists, pro-business, kind of pro-big government, but the big thing they hated about Jackson was that they felt like he was too much like a king, had too much power. Remember, he set a record for vetoes. Andrew Johnson's going to try to repeat his record during Reconstruction, but it gets overridden. All his vetoes get overridden. All right, here we go. So we're getting kind of close. Westward expansion. So Manifest Destiny is the idea we're supposed to, it's the next period. So you look at it. It's like the slavery stuff. Westward expansion to Reconstruction. So Americans believed in Manifest Destiny, that God wanted to spread from sea to shining sea our way of life, our religion, and our democracy. Polk ran for president, promising to annex Texas and Oregon. He gets elected. Tyler, before he stepped down, annexed Texas. So Texas was by this point a state, had been a country after the Alamo becomes a state right before Polk takes office. 54, 40, or 5. So he's talking about Oregon being getting Oregon all the way up to Alaska. But he settles for half of Oregon because he doesn't want to get in a fight with both Britain and Mexico at the same time. He wants California, good farmland out there, also good for trade with China. He's afraid Britain's going to get it, so he picks a fight with Mexico after offering to buy it. It didn't work out. Picks a fight with Mexico over, what is it? The size of Texas, the disputed territory. What river's the border? The Nueces or the Rio Grande? Sends old Rough and Ready down there. All right, so finally Taylor gets attacked. They fight the war. The heroes are Taylor and Winfield Scott. War goes well for the United States. The United States wins, gets the Southwest as up to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.
Dr. McKenzie, please report to bus duty. Dr. McKenzie, please report to bus duty.
I had bus duty last week. I'm making a video. Lord have mercy. They're trying to kill me. What the? All right. Hey, I guess you're on your own. They just got me to bus duty. I'm going to get in trouble. Sorry. All right. So that's getting us at least up to the current. Let me see what I... How could it be that I have bus duty? I just got through. All right, what do I do?